When English came here in the 5th century, it began to push the Celtic languages to the fringes, to the margins, to Wales, of course, to Cornwall, and here to the Outer Hebrides. And in all those places, it's hung on. I'm on Ness, at the northern tip of the Outer Hebrides, and the language around here, spoken by almost everyone, is Scots Gaelic. It's one of UNESCO's endangered languages, but so far, it's hung on almost miraculously. But now, after 1,500 years, it's facing its biggest battle ever against the still relentless advance of English.
Did you have English and Gaelic when you went to school, in Barnes Primary School?
I can't remember, but I don't think I had one word of English.
This traditional Hebridean village was abandoned 30 years ago. The local population are now bilingual, but these adults grew up speaking only Gaelic and had to learn English at school.
Yeah, I think we could count to 10, I would think, and part of the alphabet, but it wasn't a totally strange language to me, as I remember. Will we have a seat?
Yeah, why not? I think I was totally bilingual by the time I left secondary school. My grandfather's generation would speak English in a way different from what we would. We were very conscious that they were...
Like a literal translation?
Yeah, that they were, as we would put it at that time, that they were less advanced in
yes,
the use of English.
Yes, that's true.
Than we
that's
were.
True.
They were thinking in Gaelic.
There's still some of that today.
Yeah.
In the town, that it's after being, or I was after talking to somebody, or after being somewhere. Yeah. And there's the yourself and myself.
Yourself.
The use of yourself.
Yes. When two people would meet, they'd say it's yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, you feel like saying no. Yes.
Although youngsters nowadays, they've got whatever transfers across from the media, but...
If you're talking about something like pop music or something in the media that you've seen, you're not going to talk about it in Gaelic when it's been in English that you've actually seen it. But there's words in Gaelic which describe the situation so much better. For example, cianalus is it's more than homesickness. It's used to describe homesickness, but it takes in sort of nostalgia and sort of a lot of feeling more so than homesickness.
And the same applies to old man. We would use the word bodoch, the old bodoch down the road, or the old bodoch next door. I would speak Gaelic to my grandmother and my mother, but to my friends I speak English. Gaelic seems to have an image problem amongst the young people.
I mean, we used to speak Gaelic all the time when we were in primary school, but if you have one person who comes into your class who speaks English, everybody has to change or that person's isolated. So ever since then, I mean, we've been speaking English to everybody. We're just so used to it now, it's a habit.
The English spoken here still has the tang of the Gaelic, but its edge is getting duller. It's sounding more and more gradually like the language of the mainland. But how stable is that? English continues to devil away up here. And if even Lewis weakens, can Glasgow be far behind? Glasgow has some of the most distinctive voices in Britain. Companies locate call centres here because they think that the softer version of the Glaswegian accent is one of the most trustworthy and friendly in the country.
I'll send an email out to Resort and request that both reference numbers have rooms which are next to each other. Yeah, I'll do that. That's absolutely fine.
So that would be 4:30. 4:30 in the morning.
The brochure will probably take between 7 to 10 days before it comes out.
OK, so you can confirm today for £125.
And which is your nearest airport to go from?
But at its broadest, Glaswegian dialect is furthest away from standard English. It can be virtually incomprehensible to outsiders.
Aye, well, the Grand Bar, well, John was in the Grand Bar.
Bigger than that back, size it's bigger than this pub.
How many years up there?
That's my time in Bartley, correct?
Up there is your time, no?
You went to Bartley Calls?
No, George Ross.
Well, probably, you know.
He was a ton that.
Was it?
No, he beat out the babies. I can't later.
Many dialects have eroded to the extent that they're just accents, but other dialects have retained their distinctive nature. Glaswegian is a dialect which is made up of actually two different forms of English. Scottish English, which was taken over in the 18th century, which is essentially standard English spoken with a Scottish accent. And then Scots, which has its own distinctive historical development. For example, Old English air is head in standard English, so it's been retained, but in Scotland is e, so it's heed.
Right. Okay.
Glasgow University sends researchers into the streets to monitor changes in speech.
Right, so one at a time, just tell me what it says on that card.
Heat.
Head.
Heat. House.
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 House. House. Mouth.
Mouth.
Myth.
Myth. Myth.
Old English oo is still in Scots today, so they say mooth.
What about the accent? Does that also change over time?
We have, for example, f for th. Now, in Cockney, it's very normal to say, I think, but up here it isn't. However, it is now.
Think.
Think. Think.
Think. Think. Butter.
Butter. Bar.
Butter. Butter.
Inevitably, there has been speculation that it's the media, that it's watching soaps, it's watching TV, and particularly Southern English forms of TV that are causing these changes. But there's a problem here. There's no real research to actually establish this empirically.
Have you any examples of very recent new Glaswegian words?
The one that we've been quite excited about is nip. It's a verb, and an example of nip would be, I nipped her. I saw her nipping him.
Can you think of any words that you use in Glasgow that nobody else uses?
Nip. Nip.
Yeah? What does nipping mean? In the back.
We don't exactly know what nip means. It seems to mean something like kiss or snog, probably get off with.
There's a lot of talk about this particular time, the last 25, the last 50 years, being the period when regional accents retreated and began to die. What evidence do we have for that here?
An accent is actually a combination of features. And so you can change certain features in the same way in Glasgow and in Reading. But because the original combination of features that you started off with in Reading and Glasgow were different, although you have the same changes for some of the features, the rest of the features are quite different. So the resulting mix will remain distinctive. So my feeling from looking at Glaswegian at the moment is that actually Glaswegian will retain its distinctiveness.
As we've looked back at the adventure of English, we've steamed through centuries, and so we've been able to see sweeping changes in the vocabulary and the way it was used. But many changes in language have happened over a long period, and in small steps, word by word and sound by sound. So when we look at the way language is changing now, all round us, it's not so easy to see the bigger picture or where the changes are leading, which currents or influences will mark out the future.